Hello, friends. Welcome to Get Better Soon, helping you win the game of life. My name is Jeff Allen, the founder and so far only contributor of the blog and podcast. Today's topic is what to do if you are single. In 2019 to 2023, I actually had a coaching business. Actually starting up again now. Note here that I did work with men exclusively, but I learned a lot. We learned a lot together, me and my clients, about what women experience because we have to understand the opposite sex and what they want in order to be effective. I also have quite a bit of personal experience. I got divorced late in 2016, and I needed to learn how to navigate the dating marketplace. It was very different. I met my ex-wife at a baseball game actually in 2008, I believe. This is before the age of where smartphones were ubiquitous and where people were using dating apps. People still mainly met IRL, although there was some of that, to be clear. I think like OkCupid was big back then and Match.com. Obviously now we're in the era of Bumble and Tinder and Hinge and various other platforms. But in any case, I learned a lot as I was coaching these men and as I navigated the dating marketplace myself. In terms of advice, this is field tested. This stuff works. I know it does because I've used it myself, and again, I've used it for my clients. We'll kind of break these into three categories going forward. This post is just general advice for everyone, so it applies to both men and women. I should mention here that I'm purely focused on heterosexual. Well, I don't know what the fucking terms are these days, but yeah, like men dating women and women dating men. So I don't know about queer or gay relationships because I'm neither queer nor gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't know about it. So I don't feel like it'd be right to speak about such an experience. Hopefully there's stuff out there. I know that Savage Love is a great podcast if you do, because he's a gay man. And he talks a lot about, I think, queer relationships. So that's at least one place to start if you're interested in such a thing. But again, this will be for cisgender women who are interested in men and men who are interested in women. Before we get into it, I know that dating advice and giving dating advice can be controversial. This is not meant to be a hot take or to stir up controversy. I know this stuff works. Again, 70% of my clients effectively fired me after 6 weeks because they didn't need me anymore. And the other 25% got there in less than 6 months. And there were some, it took longer, or they wanted to work together longer because they had different goals, or maybe they had a long ways to go as men. But it's been great. I mean, and many of these guys still remain my friends to this day, and we still have chat and have a great relationship. So again, I know this stuff works, certainly for men, and I think I can definitely help the ladies too here, because again, we have to understand what women want in order to be better men ourselves. So the spirit here is this advice is meant to help. Get Better Soon is about getting better soon. So, don't take it personal. One thing to remember is that if I make an observation that may seem critical, keep in mind that it doesn't apply to you, right? If it doesn't apply to you, it's not about you. It's about other people. All right, that brings us to section 1. Physical fitness and living a healthy lifestyle. Note, if you're happy with yourself just the way you are, then you can wait for section 2. But I think this will apply for a lot of people because we want to be the best version of ourselves. It isn't attractive to be unhealthy. And I know that there's been a lot of movement about body positivity and things like that. And that's all well and good. It's well intentioned. But if we're honest, being significantly overweight isn't healthy. And it's also not attractive. And I think we just need to be honest about that. So one of the things that one of the first things I would recommend to my male clients is, hey, get your ass in the gym, start working out, get in good shape. And that's the same thing I'm going to say here, is that, get in the best possible physical shape that you can, to whatever the extent that you want to get there. Life is about trade-offs. I actually had a doctor once tell me, because I was talking about like how I'd like to lose weight, and he's like, well, look, you have to decide how important it is for you to be a certain weight. Do you want to be 10% body fat? All right, then you need to cut out a lot of foods and eat way less. Or do you want to enjoy, the occasional slice of cheesecake or that fat New York steak or whatever have you? So it's about trade-offs. So again, everyone needs to decide what's best for themselves. We're just going to kind of mainly talk about like what you can do if you want to get into better physical condition. And the first thing is kind of just understanding why you would do this. I think this is one of the places where female dating advice is terrible, because women are told, he should love you at any size. You're perfect just the way you are. You deserve a man who loves you no matter what. No. And let's, as I recommend, put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if we're thinking from a woman's perspective, would a woman love a man no matter what, even if he was a pathetic loser who played video games all day and was unemployed? Do men deserve to have the sort of woman they desire, regardless of looks, fitness, and social skills? No, they don't. Again, we need to understand that if we want to attract the kind of person that we're ourselves attracted to, we need to be attractive. And this is true for me, right? As of right now, I've spoken a lot about this, but I try to be transparent here. I need to lose a significant amount of weight still. Until I do, like, I'm not going to be attractive to the sort of women that I desire, and I'll probably be single for a while for that reason. It's tough medicine, but it's also the truth. Remember that not liking something doesn't mean it's wrong. And if you're not willing to put in the work to become more desirable, then you don't deserve anything. I really don't like that word deserve, because it's often used in cases where it doesn't apply. No one deserves something unless they work for it. The other benefit, of course, in terms of being in great shape and being in your best physical condition, or at least as good as you would like to be, is that it's going to make you, not only is it going to make you more attractive, right? You're also going to have more confidence. You're going to have more energy. You're going to feel better. So there's a huge benefit to just being in great shape for life reasons, not just for dating, but obviously that's the context that we're talking about here. Now, full caveat, I'm going to get into some recommendations. I am not a registered dietitian, nor am I a strength and fitness coach. So, I'm not an expert, but I do know some of the basics, and we can kind of talk about that there. What I would recommend is that if you guys can look this stuff up if you want. I mean, just get on the Google machine or whatever search engine you like, and you can surely find all kinds of recommendations, from recipes to workout plans, all kinds of stuff. But this is just kind of general stuff. So the first thing to do is clean up your diet. If you want to lose weight and you want to, have a low body fat, we have to stop eating sugar and simple carbohydrates. Fruit is fine, but candy, chocolate, ice cream, soda, rice, bread, alcohol, this stuff has to go. It's fine to have the occasional cheat, but these types of foods should not be in your regular diet. I recently actually quit drinking, partially for this reason and partially for other reasons, but I noticed that when I drank really any amount of alcohol on any sort of regular basis, even if it wasn't that much, my weight would not budge, even if I was being awesome with my diet and working out like a madman. So I really suggest that if you want to lose weight, you've got to cut the booze out. Eat for health as well. So get rid of the bad foods and think of food as medicine. So we want to focus on complex carbohydrates, vegetables, lean meats or plant proteins like tofu or tempeh. There's others as well. Nuts, beans, legumes, and healthy fats. One thing you can do, and I've been doing recently, and it's actually not very hard, is fast for 12 hours. And most of that can happen while you're sleeping. So just have breakfast about the same hour that you finished dinner the night before. I think I've mentioned this in a previous podcast as well. It's really easy. If you're curious about the science on why this works, I'll link to a show from the Rich Roll podcast. I think the guy's name is Victor Longo, but he's a scientist that studies out of UCLA, and he's studying fasting and what the effects are on longevity and cancer and all stuff. It's really interesting. So if you're interested in that, you can find the link in the show notes. We need to strength train consistently. So that means lifting weights 1 to 3 times a week, hitting all the muscle groups. I also will link to a podcast that's great if you want to get the most out of your lifting. It is super bro-y. It's between Mike Israetel and Chris Williamson. And to be 100% honest, Chris Williamson got kind of weird with some of his recent pods and not really down with his political views. But anyways, that podcast isn't about that at all. It's just about lifting and how to do lifting. I know that sometimes women are worried about, I'll get huge muscles. No, you won't. You can if you want to, but that means you need to be taking testosterone or like you need to be really altering your diet so as to produce more testosterone. The average woman just will not have enough testosterone to build massive muscles the same way that men would. What it's going to do is it's going to increase your strength. You may get slightly bigger muscles, but it's really gonna help. The best benefit of strength training is that you're burning your muscles. The bigger and stronger they are, they're burning fat all the time. So while you sleep, while you're walking around, while you're sitting at your desk, at your job, whatever you do, your muscles are always using energy. So the stronger your muscles are and the more you train them, the more you're going to get out of that kind of passive like boost to your metabolism. The other thing is to incorporate some sort of cardio as well as lifting weights. So you can walk, run, bike. I'm doing some high intensity interval training. Try to do these 2 to 4 times a week. The longer the duration, the better. I do know that the science shows that if you want to burn fat, the best way to do that is to do high intensity stuff where you're getting your heart rate up into like the 140s and 150s, basically going to max capacity. And then you go as hard as you can for a while, then you stop or you slow down so you can catch your breath, get your heart rate back down to like 110, 120, and then you do it again. That's it on health and fitness and becoming the best version of yourself for this section 1. I'll also link to another great podcast with Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She has just excellent advice on diet, health, and fitness. One thing that's really cool that I learned listening to that one was that if you take, they found that a person, and they did the study in Japan because a lot of people smoke cigarettes in Japan, but they also eat a lot of fish. And what they found is if you have really high levels of omega-3s, it's basically, and you smoke, you basically have the same longevity and health span as a person who doesn't smoke but doesn't have high omega-3s. So that's one supplement that you might consider doing, or just eating more fish because omega-3s are really, really healthy for you. I think avocados have omega-3s as well. Maybe I'll follow up at some point with supplements and stuff. Although again, that's not my expertise. Last point here is if you really struggle with fitness and diet, but you want to do better, hire a coach. It means you're putting skin in the game, and that coach is going to help you provide clear guidance, support, and accountability. Kobe Bryant had a personal coach, right? And he's one of the best basketball players to ever exist. So did Roger Federer and Serena Williams, 2 of the best tennis players to ever exist. So there's no shame in hiring a coach. And if you look at actually the most successful people, they usually do have a coach. So if you can, hire someone to help you. Section 2 is about meeting your match. Find someone who fits. When we're seeking out people in the dating and mating marketplace, we want to seek people who are bringing roughly equal value to what you are bringing to the relationship. The number one reason people are single is they think they deserve, again, there's that word deserve, someone who has far more value than them in the sexual marketplace. So there are 2 problems with this. One, if you're a man, you're rarely, if ever, going to get a date with such a woman. And if you do, she's not going to stick around unless your game is phenomenal. So we need to go for ladies who are in our league. Don't swing for the fences, but depending on how big your fence is, that might mean a home run is 200 feet or it might mean 400 feet. So you need to figure that out. For women, it's a little bit different because women can often get dates with men who are more attractive than they are, so to speak. But it's rare that those men will actually engage in a long-term relationship or get married to that woman. This is actually one of the big problems with dating apps, is that because there's about a 3-to-1 ratio of men to women on there, and because women tend to be just more picky, and also women are also better at taking photos. So there's just a lot of reasons that basically means that women can match with men who are more attractive on average than they are themselves. And I know that whole concept makes people feel icky, but if we think about it, let's just be honest, everyone has a certain level of value. And I'll get to an example below to kind of illustrate the point. So that may sound bad, and this doesn't mean I'm judging people in terms of value as their value as a human being. I just mean in terms of attractiveness. And again, we'll get to an example here in just a second where I can kind of make that point more clear. But anyways, one of the problems with going back to the dating apps for women in particular, and kind of is that women tend to match with guys who have a ton of options. And so they're not going to settle down because like those guys have 10 other girls lined up just like you that he can date. And so like, why would he settle down when he can just continue dating other girls? Think about it this way in terms of value. Would you want to eat like chalky, gross ice cream that you could get from 7-Eleven if you could get premium, locally handmade, delectable ice cream for the same price and convenience? No, no one would do that. So that's kind of how dating apps have had that, is that we have the option to date kind of at the top level of where we're at. And so people aren't like, whatever's more common becomes less valuable by nature. And that's economics 101. That's what scarcity tells us. So an attractive woman has a ton of optionality on Hinge. She's not going to date a guy she only finds meh in terms of value. In fact, they found that when it comes to matching, the top 10% of men get something like 63% of all matches or right swipes. If you're on one of those where you swipe, or same on Hinge though, where you match. The top 20% gets something like 80% of all the attention from women, from all women who are on dating apps. And the top 40% of men, again, this is like men who are judged to be the most attractive men on the apps. The top 40% gets 99%, which means the bottom 60% of men get nothing. So that's pretty sad, but that's kind of where things are at. Part of the reason that we want to match with someone who is of similar value to ourselves is that relationships are transactional. Romance and love are beautiful things, but they only happen when people are both getting what they want. Some people are more desirable than others, and this is where I get into the example about value. Let's say two guys walk into a bar. One is Ryan Gosling and the other is Wallace Shawn. By the way, if you don't know, you guys know who Ryan Gosling is, I'm sure. But Wallace Shawn is the guy from Princess Bride, and he's short and he has a homely face. And he has kind of a whiny voice. Wait till I get going! Inconceivable! Apparently I'm quoting that all the time now on my podcast. But anyways, think about this, right? They both walk into the bar and hit on the same woman. How many times is Wallace Shawn taking her home? Unless she's super into like very old men and a huge fan of the Princess Bride, 0% of the time. It's inconceivable. So this isn't good or bad. It's just what it is, reality. There are plenty of people who aren't very attractive, who are incredibly happy with their partner because they're a good match. And so that works. And then once you have a good match, you get to the good stuff. That's when you get to like know the person and like truly learn about them and fall in love with them. The intangible connection that develops when you truly get to know who they are. And that connection then strengthens the relationship tremendously. And to the point where, you then have that super trusting long-term relationship where your partner's not likely to stray, because even if they potentially had the opportunity to date someone who is quote unquote hotter, they don't want to do that because they have such a connection with you. They don't want to risk that problem. And this was true during my relationship with my ex. I gained a lot of weight. Again, apparently that's my favorite topic to talk about these days. But she still loved me, even though I was objectively way less attractive than I was when she first met me. Because she knew who I truly was, and she loved the person that I am. So, until recently. No, I'm kidding. She still loves me as friends, and that's lovely, and I feel the same way about her, but we just didn't work together for various reasons that I won't get into further. But we have to remember that kind of a connection, people can only love you for who you truly are once they get to know who you truly are, and that doesn't happen right. So we have to start at the beginning, which means finding a person who has a similar level of value. What do people value? Break it down into 6 categories here. We value someone's looks, obviously, like how pretty or handsome they are, facial symmetry, eyes, jawline, cheekbones, etc. We value a person in terms of their body, their level of fitness, which we mentioned earlier, the obvious traits we are all aware of, such as a man's height, his size, his muscularity, a woman's shapeliness and smallness in relation to the man. We value people for their social skills, how a person carries himself, speaks, and engages with others. We value social skills in terms of confidence and a good sense of humor. We know those 2 things are very, very sexy. We value people for their intelligence, how well educated, adaptable, and quick thinking they are. There's also some physical intangibles. So this is like stuff like body language, voice tonality, how a person uses their eyes, their smile, etc. And then the final thing that we value about people are their skills and abilities. Anything the person can do that makes the other person's life better. So a good example here is like cooking. Like if you're a kick-ass cook, which, humble brag I am, that's a tremendous value. And that really helped me a lot when I was dating. And honestly, I mean, my girlfriend used to joke that she would have left me long before if I wasn't such a damn good cook. So it's a huge thing to be able to cook a nice home cooked meal for someone. Like, it shows that you really care about them, and it's a valuable skill to possess, because obviously we all need to eat. So those are kind of how we break things down in terms of what we value. All these things are valuable to both sexes. To what degree matters on our individual preferences. Some people are going to place more emphasis on looks. Some people will place more emphasis on intelligence. It just depends. Everyone's a little different. Where men and women diverge is that women prefer men who, quote, have their shit together. I often see that on dating apps, which is always hilarious. But this means he's employed, he's making decent, if not good money, he's mature. Hopefully he has his own apartment or house. He has a fun and interesting lifestyle. That women generally want guys who have those types of things going for them. Men, on the other hand, prefer women who are feminine. So kind, sweet, loving, playful. This may sound odd to women, but as long as we're attracted to a woman and she's bringing that beautiful feminine energy, most men could really care less whether she's a hairstylist or the partner of a massive law firm. Now, this isn't to say it's kick-ass if she is a partner of a massive law firm, or if you have an awesome career, but it's just not as important to men as it is to women. And I actually in the post put a shrug emoji, because like it just is the way it is. Like, and one thing that I need to actually probably write a post on, but I'll just mention here, we should try to avoid making value judgments. Again, I just talked about value, so this may sound ironic, but I mean, in terms of saying we'll label things good or bad. Some things just are the way that they are. They're neither good or bad, they just are. And instead of thinking of them as like negative or bad or good and positive, we just need to be like, well, that's how it is. So again, women want guys who have a fun lifestyle, have a good career. Women are attracted to men with status and wealth and social skills, more so, along with their looks, of course. Whereas men, we're just simpler animals. We are more driven by a woman's physical appearance, but there's also that je ne sais quoi, which is kind of that thing that you can't name about a woman who has that beautiful feminine energy, who's really caring, compassionate, sweet, and kind. That's what really makes our hearts sing as men. Clearly, for short-term mating, right, people are more going to be focused on their person's physical value, how sexy they are, and that's really been exacerbated by apps like Instagram, TikTok, and dating apps in general, where we are just more focused on looks, which I don't know if that's for the better, but it is what it is. Again, that's like, I guess we could say, well, maybe that we think that that's a negative development, but like it's not going away anytime soon. What we need to do is understand our value in the dating marketplace. It's not about being harsh on yourself. It's about being realistic who you're likely to connect with. When we find someone of similar value, we can build something authentic that grows stronger over time. And that foundation of value creates the conditions where true love and deep connection can flourish. Section 3, date like it's your job. So if you're single and you don't want to be, you should be going on at least one date a week minimum. Why? Because dating is a skill and it takes practice. Learning how to engage with a person on a date so as to build attraction is difficult. And the more reps you get, the more comfortable you'll be. So like any other skill, if you don't practice regularly, the flatter your learning curve is. A person will get far more proficient at a skill if they practice it for 7 days in a row than if they space those same 7 days out over 6 months. The other thing is we have to give ourselves lots of options and of like roughly similar value, but they're just not a good fit for what we're looking for. That can happen at any stage. Whether you find out about a lifestyle that doesn't match your own on a first date, maybe that person like loves the party and goes out and maybe drinks a lot and does recreational drugs. Again, there's no judgment against that. If that's how you want to live, please do. But the other person is like, well, like I don't like to drink at all, really, or I don't want to do drugs and I'm really focused on my health. So that's not going to be a good match. And that doesn't mean either person is good or bad. It just doesn't work. This also might happen where it could happen later on, maybe on the 5th or 6th date, like you start to kind of really start to figure out, okay, well, this is going somewhere, but like, is it going somewhere? And it turns out that one of you wants to have kids and the other one does not. So it's a non-negotiable for both of you or one of you, in which case it's just not going to work, even though maybe you really love each other and care about each other and have a deep connection, if ultimately if those things are super important and non-negotiable, then it's just not going to be a good match. And I should note here, like personal experience, I dated really heavily from 2018 to 2021 before I met my ex-girlfriend. And it was not that I dated was single for this long, because most of the women I dated weren't lovely people. They were, but either they didn't want a long-term relationship with me, or I didn't want one with them. And so, it wasn't until I met my ex-girlfriend that it was like, all right, like let's stay together. And that was when I chose to exit the dating market. So it takes time to find the right. We have to give ourselves lots of opportunities. If you're going on lots of dates, one thing to do is to make this sustainable. Make a budget for dating expenses. I personally don't like coffee dates because they can kind of feel corporate to me. So I think like getting a drink, even if you don't drink, right, you can just get like a mocktail or something. That's like kind of just a more relaxed setting. I also don't recommend first date dinner dates, because if you end up not liking this person and you're sitting across them for dinner for, typically dinner lasts at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. It can be pretty expensive, and also you can't just get up and leave quickly. I mean, I guess you could, but that's going to be pretty rude. Whereas if you get to the bar and you're meeting someone for a drink and you see like, oh my gosh, like this person catfished me and they're not that attractive, or you start to talk to them for a while and then you find out, oh wow, like this is just not going to work. You can kind of get out of there a little more quickly. Honestly, I maybe this is old fashioned, but I kind of think the man should set up the date and pay for it. I think it works better if men lead when it comes to dating. Doesn't have to be that way. I'm not like, saying that is the only way to do it. But if you ask women what they want, they actually will say this too, right? They actually prefer to be the one who's pursued. They prefer for the man to set up the date. And then I think if you're asking the person out on a date, like you kind of have the onus to pay for it. So that's just the way it goes. And look, if you go on a second date, maybe she can pay for it, or maybe you can split it or whatever. One thing I would say is that if you don't have enough money to date, then you probably should work on making more money, especially if you're a guy, because we know that that's one of the things that women are going to find attractive about you, is to maybe it's time to get a better job and work on building up your financial resources so that you can go out and get a couple drinks and pick up the tab and not care about it. We can also take breaks when needed. Again, I say that you should be going on at least one date a week, but if you need a couple weeks to recharge, that's better than just dating constantly and getting burnt out or jaded. And the other final thing I'll say is, when you're going on all these dates, learn from each experience, right? Keep a simple journal of what worked and what didn't, or at least internalize what happened. You can't control what the other person does. All you can control is what you can do. So let the other stuff go. Maybe they're a maniac or a weirdo, but like, that's not on you. What you need to think about is like, did I work to build attraction? Did I make strong eye contact? Things like that. And I think I'll go into to that in greater detail in upcoming posts. Couple last points here. Don't flake on dates, and don't ghost. On the flaking thing, if you have the flu or some valid reason not to go out, that's fine. But just tell them, hey, I can't go out. I'm sorry. And if you still do want to go out with that person, you should suggest another date when you are available that you could go out, because otherwise, when you flake, that person is just going to assume this person is not interested in meeting me. And oftentimes, what I've found, and this is true for my clients and what I've heard from actually a lot of female friends, is that once someone flakes, like that's probably it. Like 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work, because you're starting the relationship off showing that you can't be trusted, and that's not good. So you can just say, hey, I'm not ready to date, or I hooked back up. You can make an excuse that's a lie. I don't think that's wrong. Just, whatever. And don't ghost people. One of the shittiest things you can do to another person is to just disappear after a date, especially if you hooked up with that person. It's immature and it shows a lack of character. And I get it. Like sometimes maybe you just wanted to fuck, right? Or but you didn't really connect with that person or whatever. Or maybe you went on a date and nothing happened, but like you just don't care for that person. Just tell them, like, hey, I don't think this is going to work. Again, you can just make up any excuse in the book, but just let them know. And then if you're worried that that person's going to like be a bitch about it, which a lot of men are, unfortunately, when they're like send a big wall of text when a woman rejects them, just block their ass. And like, if you can't, if you're so fragile that you can't take it that someone sends a wall of text, like, just laugh about it. It's stupid. And it means you made the right choice, right? Because that dude, again, I'm picking on men here because they're the ones who most often do this. If you've been flaked on or ghosted, my guess is almost everyone listening has. If you've been single for any period of time, did you like it? And my guess again is no, you didn't. No one really likes that. So don't inflict that pain on someone else. As I've said before, I think it's like the motto of 800 colleges in the U.S. Be the change in the world you would like to see. And as cliche as that might be, it's a good idea. So if you don't like being flaked on or ghosted, don't do it to other people. Section 4, get out and about. So when you're not dating, get out and do fun social things with your friends and family. Don't rely exclusively on dating apps for your opportunities to meet people. I met my ex at Oktoberfest and dated almost exclusively without using apps from 2018 to 2021 before we met. So, go out to St. Patty's Day or the 4th of July, attend local parades, festivals, nearby cities, food and wine festivals, brewfests, Saturday markets, farmers markets, concerts, sporting events, big EDM festivals, and music festivals. I just went recently in Portland. There's a First Thursday down in the Pearl with a bunch of artist booths, and that was great, super fun. And I managed to meet at least a few very beautiful women. And then we actually, my buddy and I went to the Portland Street Fair, the night market rather, on Friday night. Again, it was a great fun. Talked to some pretty girls, listened to some music. The artisans did a good job selling me stuff. I think I ended up with like a upper art print, some beard balm, and a mushroom t-shirt. And that was, it was great fun. To address the elephant in the room, yes, this does mean you're going to have to become comfortable talking to strangers you don't know. Guys, it is your job to approach. I'm not saying that women can't or shouldn't, but if you look at what women they say they want, again, I mentioned this earlier, it's for the man to initiate the conversation. Now, there are things women can do to make it more likely that men will approach, such as making eye contact, smiling, or standing nearby men that she finds attractive. And actually, I just wrote a post on that today called "May the Odds Ever Be in Your Favor, Girl Game 101." So you can read that, and eventually I'll record a podcast for that one as well. So ladies, there you go. You can go read that right now if you want to after you finish this podcast. Regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, it's imperative to learn social skills. And I know that a lot of people experience social anxiety. I have a blog post for that as well. So I'll link to that in the show notes, and I'll make a podcast for it as well. But there's no reason to be socially anxious. It's really mostly just a lack of practice in socializing with others. And if you start getting out there, it'll get easier and easier. One easy lead, if you guys are thinking about this, you want to get out and try to meet people in real life. Great, easy lead. Hey, having fun today? Pause for a response. If they say something to respond to, then you can respond in kind. And then either way, once, whether they respond or not, you can ask the next question is, where are you from? Boom. And then you find out maybe they're from your hometown. Then you can talk about like where you went to high school or college. Maybe they're from out of town, and you can ask them about where they're from and what that's like. And I would say here too, and this is true of any time that you're meeting people in real life, if a person reacts negatively to those questions or doesn't bite, just wish them a nice day and move on. Easy peasy. It shouldn't hurt your feelings. I know that rejection always stings, but remember, especially men out there, the result of you not talking to the girl is the same as if she rejects you. It rejects you. So don't be a pussy and go talk to the girl. We know that you want to. And I mentioned in the girl game post is that women should let guys shoot their shot more. I think a lot of women don't do that, and just reject men out of hand. Guys, this is why you can't take rejection from women seriously or care about it too much. They didn't, because it's oftentimes not even about you. they're like, there were a certain number of women that me and my friend tried to talk to at both the night market and the first Thursday thing. And they didn't even give us a chance to talk to them. And maybe they thought, well, whatever, we were unattractive and that's fine. Like, it's a girl's prerogative to reject, but it's not about you and you shouldn't take it personally. So, once I realized that those first few stings of rejection hurt, but after a while you'll come to realize that it doesn't really matter. And then you kind of have unlocked your superpower, because then you can go and talk to as many women in real life as you want to. You're limitless. Section 5, employer social circle. Get help from your friends and family. So ask your friends and family, hey, are there any cute single guys or gals at work that they could set you up with? Your people want to help you select them. Also, look for opportunities when you're hanging out with your family and friends. Are there any cute guys at the campground you're at? One of my ex's friends, she met her current partner at a campground. Pretty sweet. Any lovely ladies at the resort Airbnb your mom and dad rented out for the week? One of the things I'll do is I love to ski. And when riding up the chair with other people, I'll make an observation. Hey, snow's awesome. Ask how their day is and proceed. Met a ton of really nice people. The last time I went skiing, I was still in my relationship, but it's still just a great chance to practice and meet new people. And if you are single, it's great. You see that cute snow bunny or sexy snowboarder, and you can go talk to them and see what's going on. So definitely try to meet people and be open to meeting people in your day-to-day life while you're doing fun things that you would already want to do anyways. So there's a lot to get started if you're single. So get going. The biggest mistake people make when undertaking any endeavor is that they don't start right away. And I wrote about this in my post about improving decision making, that once you make a decision to do something, just go all in. So if you're single, you don't want to be, you've got lots of stuff to work on here, and you can just jump right in and go all in, and you may make some mistakes, but you'll learn as you go, which I kind of talked about in my previous podcast about how giving yourself permission to suck. Maybe at first dating is hard. I know that these first few weeks of me being single, I haven't really gone on any dates, talked to a few girls, but I'm a little rusty, but it'll come back in time. And I'm sure that over time, especially as I lose some more weight, I'll be more and more successful. The last thing here is a bit of a personal pitch, is that if you would like coaching help from me in terms of meeting men or women, I'm more than happy to do so. So again, I'm starting this up. I currently have one client right now, but I'm happy to take on more. For men, there is going to be a cost. When I started coaching in the past, I actually first offered it for free. Like how I got into it was that I think I was just posting on Reddit or something, but a lot of guys would read my posts and then they were like, hey, do you like help guys do this? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, would you? And I was like, oh, sure. Why not? So I did. And I didn't charge them. But then what I found, I did that with a few guys, and then they just didn't put any work in. And so it sucked. Plus, since I wasn't getting paid, I was kind of like, well, I'm not going to spend a ton of my time doing this because, what is it? I mean, I like helping people, but it's a lot of time to spend coaching if you're not making any money. So putting money on the table for men and for me gives us both stakes in the game. It means I need to do my job to help you and take it seriously, which I promise you I will. And you need to implement the work to implement my instruction. Do the work to implement my instruction. If you hire me, you can expect clear, actionable strategies that work with women. You will learn how to build confidence, and you'll get immediate feedback on your approach. We'll help you with setting up your dating apps, help you with techniques and ways to meet women in real life. And my clients typically see results within 3 to 4 weeks of implementing my advice. And as I mentioned, when I was doing this previously, a lot of my clients, they were like, I don't need you after about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. They're like, I don't need you anymore, man. I'm good. Thank you. Appreciate you. And I was like, cool. That's the goal. So depending on what your goals are, men, we'll develop a plan and a program, and then we can negotiate a fair price for my time and energy. I also do have a ton of PDFs left over from my previous time that I can share with you. They're tremendously helpful. My baseline hourly charge is $100, but that would be direct time, you or me working together via the phone or Zoom. So it's not going to be the time that I'm preparing. That's purely one-on-one time where we talk about your experience and we get you some good things going in terms of dating. And some guys, you know, they only need like an hour or two to consult with me, and then they're good. Or, you know, some guys might want more. For the ladies, and I'll risk doing it. I'll do the first few for free simply because I haven't coached women before and I don't really want to charge for something that I don't know works. I'm pretty sure I can help you if you're a woman, but again, I'll take on those first few clients for free. So if you do want help, you can hit me up. I'll list my email here in just a second, and I'll also link to that in the show notes. For women, we'll implement practical strategies that work with how men actually think and behave, not how they're supposed to act, but how actually men actually behave and what you can do to get them to respond to you in the way that you want, how to meet the sort of men that you desire. And my hope is that in working together with a few women, I'll help you find success. And in turn, I'll get to learn more about what women experience in the dating marketplace. And that's a win-win in my book. I will leave it there for now, kids. As always, if you have comments, questions, or places where you think I'm wrong, you can post them below in the comments section. And again, and I'll mention my email is jallengetbetter@gmail.com. That's JALLENGETBETTER@gmail.com. So if you're interested in coaching, you can hit me up there. If you have a guest post that you want to write, you can hit me up there. You can also post in the comments section. Some of them are free, most of them are not. Reason being that I don't want random ass people from the internet spamming my readers. But I think this one I will make free, so you can list your comments if you have any on the post. And again, or the podcast, I should say. And again, thank you so much for listening. Namaste.